everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hank's Corner. I'm Hank Jr., part of Hank Jr. Productions, where I'm documenting life's moments through photography, videography, and now podcasting. And you can find me on hankjrproductions.com, as well as YouTube for the videos, and Spotify and other streaming. And today on Hank's Corner, we are back in the United States with a United States artist. Please welcome Breanna Faith. Breanna, how are you doing today?
Hi, I am so good. I'm so excited to be doing this because I haven't done a podcast in a very long time. And just meeting you and meeting new people, I'm really excited for this.
Well, good, and I'm definitely excited to have you. I always love to know, where are you actually calling in from?
Well, this is Bloomington, Indiana. I grew up in Indianapolis, and that's where I do the majority of my shows. But I moved a little bit south, Bloomington, Indiana, where I work. I have an actual job. I work at the hospital there in the neurology department.
Mm-hmm.
I moved there last summer, and so that's where I currently work and reside. But like I said, I grew up in Indianapolis, and that's where I do most of my shows.
Okay. And did I see when you talk about your job, didn't you just get a milestone where you completed some EEG education? Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So I studied electroencephalogram technology and specifically neurodiagnostics, which is a big word. But to put it simply, I do EEG tests on patients. They detect seizure activity, brain infections, any sort of disorders. So things of that nature. And I do that every day, and I just finished school for it. So
yeah, and congratulations on that. And that's so cool. And I'm glad that you dumbed it down for me, because the only medical stuff that I understand typically is on prime time, and they just kind of have a good time doing it, which I'm sure that's not how hospitals really are, how they show them in prime time. But that's the only jargon that I can usually understand. But that is pretty cool. And we'll talk a little bit more as we go as to why you got into that. But tell me a little bit about the area that you're from.
So Indianapolis is a pretty big city. That's where I spent most of my life. I was actually born in Austin, Texas, which is a fun fact that not a lot of people might know. And then I spent a little bit of time in Maryland and then Indianapolis, and I did grade school, middle school, high school there. Right after I graduated high school is when I kind of took a break from education because COVID kind of knocked some of my plans around. And then that's when I moved to Bloomington last year. And this is a college town. This is where Indiana University resides. So during the August to May months, it's so busy. There's traffic everywhere. There's music everywhere, all kinds of kids doing all these activities. So it's a really neat opportunity just to meet new people, mingle, again, kind of grow in my early adulthood as far as jobs and education go. But Indianapolis is definitely the place to be for live music. I started out there. My first ever live solo gig with my guitar was at a tiny restaurant called Teddy's Burger Joint on the south side of Indianapolis. And then from there, I just kind of built up a bunch of repertoire of restaurants, bars, fairs, festivals, all that. And then I finally started extending to different cities in Indianapolis, Shelbyville, St. Paul, Lowell, Indiana, Beech Grove, just all different places in Indiana.
Okay. And my only experience of Indiana and Indianapolis per se that I remember is, driving through the state. And I remember seeing the stadium there in Indianapolis. And eventually I will get back there. But, you mentioned Texas, and that's where I spent most of my life, in Texas. And I do have, some family up in Jersey where I spent some time. And so one time we did make the trip, from Texas the long way, because we went through St. Louis and then through Indianapolis all the way up to New Jersey. But that was all I got to see. So I definitely got to make it back there at some point.
That's
and how you're rolling your eyes, but I would like to get there. I definitely would. I have not been to all 50 states yet, so there's a few that I still have to get checked off on my bucket list. And but as far as the Nashville thing is concerned, how often then do you get down to Nashville?
Nashville is usually we try to do it every other month, but it's been super, super busy with gigs. So the last time I was there, I believe it was, had to be April, May, June-ish. But I try to go back at least every other month or a couple times a year. That's where I do a lot of my co-writing, recording. I've done a few writers rounds down there. My most recent visit was when I recorded with Mark Allen Barnett, and then our friend Jay in his studio. And then the previous time, I had my first Broadway gig, which was so exciting. I got to play Margaritaville with my really good friend Hunter Lott, who is also an amazing artist. I'm going to plug him for a second. He's awesome. Go check out his stuff. He does a lot of shows in Nashville, a lot of writing. He's awesome. So yes, I did my first Broadway gig down there with him, which was so much fun. And then, like I said, my most recent trip was co-writing, and I'm hoping to be back around September, October. But one of my biggest issues that I run into personally is that I accidentally overbook myself months in advance, and I need to stop. A lot of people and places are like, hey, can you come on this day? I need you to perform at this event. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then completely forget that I have Nashville right there. So I need to start figuring that out. But I'm definitely hoping for September, October area for my next Nashville trip.
Yeah, and that kind of sounds a little like me. Now, on the side is where I do my photography and video stuff like that. And a lot of times I do weddings. And there's been occasion where like I'm about ready to say yes, and but I'm like, no, I already have one. And because you can kind of work it out a little bit easier if you have to cancel one of your shows. I can't cancel a wedding, so
Right.
I just I understand it completely on how that goes. But so one of the songs that you recently had out was called Routine. And I know you mentioned a little bit about COVID, and that's kind of where this song comes from. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Routine was inspired by some of the COVID stuff that we all went through, as far as kind of being trapped in, not really knowing what to do, or when you were doing stuff, it felt like you were doing it over and over again. And that's where Routine kind of popped into my head. Both all my styles of writing, actually, I come up with the title first, which is something kind of unique, and then I revolve the entire song around that. And then I had recently learned from Mark Allen Barnett, like, you have to have details in all of your songs. You want to put imagery in listener's head and make it as relatable as possible. So I was like, okay, shoot. So in the first verses, they talk about how I'm getting ready for work. I ran a stop sign. My boss is going to be this, that, and the other. And then the chorus goes into the details of COVID in particular. Like, it mentions March 13th and the word quarantine and the word politics. And then second verse and bridge, same thing, same idea as far as details and relatability goes. But yes, that is, I feel like a lot of songwriters kind of went through that long extended period of, I'm going to write every song I possibly can because I got nothing else to do with my time. And that's kind of where I was at as well. So that's where that song came from. It's one of my favorites to perform now. And it is out finally on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, all of that.
All right. And would you mind playing Routine here on Hank's Corner today?
Of course. Absolutely. Alrighty, this is Routine. Waking up to the same old thing, another day of this routine. Watch your black pants, messy hair. Run a stop sign once or twice, maybe one day I'll be on time. I tell my boss I'll be there soon. Every day since March 13th, I've been going through the same routine. We ask ourselves when it's gonna end, but we can't see that far ahead. Another story on the news, and you wonder, how could this be true? What is real and what's a lie? I wanna go back to a normal life when quarantine didn't exist and we weren't obsessed with politics. I wanna see how the world will be when we are living the same routine. I left the house without my mask, gotta Turn around, imagine that. Who knows if it's even clean? Had to switch to dating apps, but they only want me for my body. The boys my age just won't grow up. And every day since March 13th, I've been going through the same routine. We ask ourselves when it's gonna end, but we can't see that far ahead. Another story on the news, and you wonder how could this be true? What is real and what's a lie? I wanna go back to a normal life, but quarantine didn't exist, and we weren't obsessed with politics. I wanna see how the world will be when we are living the same routine. One day ends and the next begins. We do it all again and again. We pray to God for something to change, 'cause I'm sick of always living the same old days. Every day since March 13th, I've been going through the same routine. We ask ourselves when it's gonna end, but we can't see that far ahead. Another story on the news, and you wonder how could this be true? What is real and what's a lie? I wanna go back to a normal life, but quarantine didn't exist, and we weren't obsessed with politics. I wanna see how the world will be when we are living the same routine. Same routine.
And welcome back to Hank's Corner. I'm Hank Jr., and you just heard Breanna Faith singing Routine. And definitely that is a song that everybody can relate to. And, I'm kind of glad that we're kind of looking back for the most part at it, because, yeah, that was a rough period of time. But I want to go back even further. I want to go back to, when you were younger, fifth and sixth grade, you're getting your vocal lessons, and you actually had a very interesting vocal coach. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I had Lynn Malott as my vocal coach, I believe for about 6 years, until I was about 12 to I think 18 years old. And her daughter is Jennifer Malott, who is also a good friend of mine. We grew up both doing shows together. She was in the group called the Dazzlers, which were a vocal group that Lynn Malott also directed and trained and put out there for shows. And then I was in a couple vocal groups myself, and we would all go out and do these shows. We did a lot of benefits, some Down syndrome awareness events, various restaurants, fairs, and festivals again, and some competitions. And then as we grew older, I kind of had my Breanna Faith solo career going, as well as Jennifer Malott's. She's doing amazing things too. I would definitely check her out. She's got a lot of music out there, doing a whole bunch of shows this summer. And I'm really thankful that we've been able to stay friends all this time. I still get to keep in touch with Lynn and the rest of Jen's family. And we actually just had a show together not too long ago. We both did a couple hours at the Hancock County Fair here in Indy. And yeah, I did hour and a half, and then she did an hour and a half, and it was a great time. I love Lynn. I love Jen. I love their dad, Jim. They're so talented, and I'm really, really blessed that I had Lynn as my vocal coach.
Yeah, how cool is that? And then it was about, I guess, your teenage years when you started songwriting, correct?
Yes, I was about 13 to 14. I mean, I kind of dabbled with it when I was like 11 or 12, but then it was around 13 years old. I started to take it seriously, to where I was like, I want to write good songs. I want to record these songs. And so the first ever recorded written song I have is called Atmosphere. And if you listen to it, it is my first release song, but if you compare that to Routine, now my latest, it's a big difference. So it just goes to prove the more you do something, the better you get at it. And yeah, that. Atmosphere was never based off of a true story. I kind of just wrote it just to get a feel for the songwriting process. But everything after that is true stories. So
Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing is that we all grow as like you said, as long as you keep doing it, you'll grow in there. But that's cool that it's still out there because I've talked to some artists and they'll say, "Yeah, we pulled a lot of the stuff from the beginning because it's just so different and didn't want it out there." But it's kind of cool to see where you started from because it's just, you are what you are now, but you didn't get there unless you started from the beginning. So that's pretty cool. And did I see that you also dabbled in theater in high school?
I did. I did. I loved theater. I actually started when I was 8 years old. I started this theater camp. They did this every summer at our high school. They held a what's called Junior Rebel Theater Camp, and I did that for like 5 or 6 years. I finally started getting leads as I grew up a little bit, and then I entered high school and got more ensemble roles because the competition was obviously a little harder. But I did get to do a little community theater as well. I got to work with Footlight Productions, which was so much fun. That's a local community theater in Indianapolis. And then I did a few other things. I think my favorite role ever, though, had to be Weezer in Steel
Mm.
Magnolias. I got to be the grouchy old lady with the thick Southern accent, and I ended up playing that really well. I don't know if you want to call it typecasting or irony, but oh my gosh! And I got to be beside some of my best friends in that play, so I love Steel Magnolias. That play, that movie has a special place in my heart. But yes, I did theater. I loved theater. Um, there is still a little part of me that wishes she could do community theater, but these days with shows and stuff, oh god, it'd be so hard to balance all that.
Sure, but say you could go back and do whatever show that you wanted. What show would like to do the most?
Either The Little Mermaid, Grease, or oh gosh, I'm gonna say those two. I know those are pretty kind of basic answers, but I love the music in Grease. I love the music in The Little Mermaid. If I think of any though, I'll let you know. Those are my
Yeah,
some of my favorites though.
yeah, they're both pretty cool, and I would love to see Grease. Grease is one of the ones that I have not seen, and I can only imagine how it is in person. You watch it, have a good time on TV, but to see it out in person, I think that would be pretty cool. But I
Mhm.
do want to shift gears here. I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges you have to face over the year, and one of that is being epilepsy. Correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, and from what I gather, it's been about 3 years since you've had any seizures or anything like that?
Yeah, you did your research. Look at
Well,
that.
I try, but that's wonderful that you've gone that because, in my family, we've had some family members that have to deal with seizures as well. So it's kind of a near and dear topic as well. So tell me a little bit about your words, how you struggled with it and how you can help people cope with it.
I was diagnosed with juvenile absence epilepsy when I was 8 years old, which is a big fancy word for the type of seizures that make it look like you're staring out. And that is kind of hard for people to catch sometimes because it literally just looks like you're staring out into space. And unfortunately, my parents didn't really catch that as a seizure for a while. And so there were times when I would stop mid basketball game and just stare out, and everyone would be like, Breanna, run. Or other times teachers would notice it in school. Anyways, I got put on medications for my absence seizures, and those were actually doing much better. Those were all regulated. And then fast forward a couple of years, I started having what are called tonic-clonic seizures. You may have heard of them referred to as grand mal. And those are the more common seizures that people are familiar with, the convulsing ones. And I had a few of those episodes. Again, was put on medication, and those got better. However, 6 years later, I'm a junior in high school, and after I thought my epilepsy was kind of like maintained, all of these episodes and seizures started coming back. And I had one in a recording studio where I had to be rushed to the hospital. I had one at an audition, who thankfully my dad was there for, and this was funny. It was during the dance portion, and I had a seizure, and my dad like moved everybody out of the way just to come and help me. And I obviously don't remember it. I was unconscious, and then there were a few other ones that happened throughout that year. And it would happen every other month. And I would get so down on myself because I thought, you know, I was just starting out to drive too. And I got all my driving privileges taken away and kind of just limited to the stuff I could do as a high school student. I had to get into this program where, like, educationally, my tests and homework assignments all had to be spread out because I had to get a specific amount of sleep at night. You know, I couldn't be staying up till 12 a.m. doing my English homework, you know, like, so I had some educational differences that I had to work out as well. But amidst all this, I would get very down on myself. And at one point, I kind of entered this mild depression stage. And then an opportunity opened up where someone had heard about me and said, hey, we're having this epilepsy gala. It was a group called Breezy's Bunch. They were hosting an epilepsy-themed gala, and they had doctors there, neurologists, Miss Indiana at the time was there, and then performers like me and other advocates. And so I got scheduled to perform at this gala, and I was like, I want to write something for this. I want this to be big. And so I sat down one night and I wrote what has kind of become my anthem. I sat down and wrote Fireproof. And it talks about not just epilepsy specifically, but anybody with challenges or obstacles in life. You say, you know, I've been down about this. However, I am fireproof. I can rise from this. I'm going to get over this. And I sang it at this gala and cried. Everybody cried. I cried. And so ever since then, it's just been a very, very special song, near and dear to my heart. I even have a special fan who I'm going to mention. Her name is Kelsey, and she comes to a lot of my shows, and she makes a great effort. And she, like me, also has a form of epilepsy, and she requests it, bless her heart, at every single show. And she always says how much she relates to that song and how much she appreciates it. So in that sense, that makes me so happy that, you know, my songs can touch people the way that they do. So Fireproof is definitely one of my favorites. And I'm so glad that I, as an epileptic, am able to spread awareness and also use my gifts as a way of advocacy. And just being involved in the Epilepsy Foundation has been really good for me. And I'm glad I get to do it.
Yeah, well, that's awesome that you're doing that. And I'm going to take Kelsey's place here today, and I'm going to request that you play it here on Hank's Corner.
Of course. I would love to. Grab your tissues. Just kidding. You can't light that match, throw that fire, but it won't come close to my desire to win this fight, get my victory, go into battle with pride and glory. I am fireproof, can't burn me down. I will rise to the sky. I am fireproof, you won't see no flames you can ignite, but I will fight and I won't give up, 'cause I'm fireproof. No ashes here or anywhere. I'm breathing fine, no smoke in the air. A scar here and there, well, that's fine by me, 'cause they're a reminder of who I'm meant to be. I am fireproof, can't burn me down. I will rise to the sky. I am fireproof, you won't see no flames you can ignite, but I will fight and I won't give up, 'cause I'm fireproof. I'm fireproof. You won't see no flames. You can ignite, but I will fight, and I won't give up, 'cause I'm fireproof. Yeah, yeah. Fireproof.
And that was Breanna Faith singing Fireproof here on Hank's Corner. Thank you so much for singing that. I definitely appreciate you sharing your story and encouraging others to realize that, hey, sometimes things happen. You may feel a little bit different because of it, but you can always figure out a way to, to stand strong. And Fireproof does kind of really show that. But I also want to talk about your faith in Christianity as well, because I believe that that plays a big part in your life as well.
Absolutely. Actually, my first ever practice with guitar itself was in church. I went to a Catholic school growing up, and I got a shout out to Sally Meyer. She was the first person to ever teach me guitar. And kind of as practice for, I guess, my future, I would play a few songs in church every now and then. And then that got to be a weekly thing. I'd actually start playing all the songs in church. And I've led a couple children's camps. I think I did like a winter vacation Bible school type thing. And then I did a couple other like children's events in my local church in Indianapolis. And then I've also volunteered with Mount Pleasant Christian Church in Greenwood. And they do a Saturday morning little like pantry / clothing supply for, the needy. And then the guy who's in charge was like, hey, you do music. Why don't you lead us in a worship song? And I was like, that's a great idea. So not only would I help them, but I would also bring in my guitar that morning and play either any song that kind of went with the message. My favorites are 10,000 Reasons, Oceans, I Love, Reckless Love, Lord, I Need You. Those are some of my favorites. And then I do also write some Christian songs as well. I've got one called No Greater Love. I've got one called New Truth. Those are just ones I have not yet recorded. I've just kind of written them when I'm feeling the power of God or in need of God. I have gotten a request at a show to do a Christian song one time. This was back in like 2018 or 2019 at Beach Grove Fall Festival. Someone came up to me and said, do you know any Christian worship songs? I was like, yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I know Oceans really well, and I know that's a very, very popular contemporary Christian song. So I played that, and the coolest thing ever happened. Not only was the audience member kind of like raising her hands to praise God, but there were other people from the streets, from this festival, coming up to do the exact same thing. And all of these people were like worshiping together and singing along. And in that moment, I could really, really feel God's grace working within me. And I felt like this strong presence, and my fingers weren't even playing the guitar at that point. It felt like God was really doing this in real time. And I think about that all the time. And yes, so Christianity does play a really big role in my life. And the fact that I get to incorporate my music into it too means a lot to me.
Yeah. And what a great story to be leading a worship like that. It's just an amazing feeling, and that's wonderful that you got to be a part of it. But most importantly, thanks for sharing that too, because there's a lot of people that even if they are Christians, they don't necessarily share it as much as they should on social media, and I recognize that you do, and so I give you props for doing that. So I don't know if you can hear, but there's been a lot of thunder and my lights have been kind of flickering, and that's because I'm in Tampa, Florida. I am in the lightning capital of the world, and every evening this summer we have thunderstorms, and for whatever reason it's pretty bad tonight. But I also bring that up because I know you were down here in Florida and just drove right by, didn't say hi or anything.
I'm so sorry.
But tell me, how was your trip down here?
Oh, it was so fun. I have been to Florida a couple times, but I forgot how humid it was. And when I stepped out of the car, I was like, this might be a longer week than I thought. But no, I had so much fun. I went to Fort Myers, and it was great. I mean, it was a family vacation, and we've had it on the calendar for months. And so it's something we were all looking forward to. My brother and I got to go parasailing. We went jet skiing. We spent a lot of time at the beach, did some things at our pool in our condo, and just, it was a good, relaxing vacation. I feel like I definitely needed to get away a while. Enjoyed a lot of seafood. Also took a day trip to Sanibel Island.
Okay.
So it was a lot of fun. Would I go back? Absolutely. Will I go back anytime soon? No, because I need to make more money to go back.
Yeah, well, I definitely know that feeling because I would travel as much as I could if I could, but yeah, we all need that money. But you know, maybe next time or one of these times that you come down here, you can do a little bit of both. You can make some money down here by performing, and then you can enjoy the rest of the time. And you know, if you do that, I definitely want to come see you play. But you know, before we go, I am going to end the podcast with South on 65, one of your hits. But Breanna, thanks so much for coming on my podcast, and it was great talking to you and sharing your stories. Anytime you want to be on Hank's Corner, you're more than welcome to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time talking to you and sharing some stuff, and yeah, it's been great, and I would love to come back sometime.
Bigger things. Pack my bags and head straight for my dreams. I can't keep dragging around and wasting time, 'cause I know I got mountains to climb. Gotta get up on my feet and hit the road. I think I'm finally ready to go. The journey's long, but I know I'll get there. In the end, it's all worth taking the dare. 'Cause I know the way, I won't hesitate. It's not too far away. You're gonna see who I'm gonna be. You just might have to drive south on 65. I've got an open mind and fire in my eyes. Just gotta push through all the lows and highs. You got this, yeah, that's what they say. So I know I'm gonna get there someday. 'Cause I know the way, I won't hesitate. It's not too far away. You're gonna see who I'm gonna be. You just might have to drive south on 65. Maybe 300 miles, but that's okay.